Hi, everybody. And I think now I'm here. And anyone who knows me knows that technology is not quite my forte. And I don't mean to be speaking that into the universe, but it just is what it is. Fortunately, Kathy was able to walk me through this. And so I was only 5 minutes. We were actually here on time, but I couldn't seem to get on Facebook Live. The good news is I think I have it now, kind of. So let's begin with influence, and we're going to sort of focus today on what I call the logic of emotions. And many of you have heard me say that influence, if we're going to define it on a very basic level, is the ability to move a person or persons to a desired action, usually within the context of a specific goal. And while that's the definition, it's not really the substance or the essence of influence. The essence is pull. It's gentle pull as opposed to push. We know that trying to push a rope is usually counterproductive. When we pull a rope, we can lead, we can influence, and we need to do it gently, and we need to do it in a way that is ultimately to benefit the other person as well as ourselves. As such, we understand that any kind of influence, whether we're talking about sales relationships or personal relationships, is always about asking the right questions that allow us to understand what the other person needs, wants, desires. And so everything about influence, great influence is never about the influencer, right? Just as great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. It's always about the other person. It's about bringing value to everyone whose lives we touch, to everyone whose lives we want to bring value to. And so it's about the other person, but it begins with us. And which is why the first law of genuine influence is to master your emotions. The sages of old asked a question, who is mighty? And they answered, that person who is strong enough to control their own emotions and make of an enemy or of a potential enemy a friend. And that's really where it all begins, because it's only when we're in control of ourselves and control of our emotions that we're even able to be in a position to take a potentially negative person or situation and turn it into a win for everyone involved. We know this. I mean, how many sayings talk about that person who can do this? In fact, I quote in one of my other books, Adversaries into Allies, I quote the great Orison Swett Marden. He's one of my favorite authors ever. He wrote a wonderful book called Peace, Power, and Plenty. It was written in 1909. What a wonderful book. And here's what he writes. Self-control, again, the ability to master our emotions, self-control is the very essence of character. To be able to look a person straight in the eye, calmly and deliberately, without the slightest ruffle of temper, under extreme provocation, gives a sense of power which nothing else can give. To feel that you are always, not sometimes, always master of yourself gives a dignity and strength to character. It buttresses it. It supports it on every side as nothing else can. This is the culmination of thought mastery. That's the person who can master their emotions. And it's easy to see why that person who can master their emotions, who can control their emotions, is so respected by others. They have influence. They have the ability to move others to a desired action. When we talk about controlling our emotions, and so often we don't, and we don't because we're human beings. And even though we know we should, we don't. Because we are emotional creatures. We are built that way. We'd like to think we're logical, and to a certain extent we are, but we're pretty emotion-based. We make major decisions based on emotion, and we back up those emotional decisions with logic. We rationalize, which if you break up the word rationalize, it simply means we tell ourselves rational lies. And we do this to justify that decision that we know we really shouldn't have made, even though we wanted to, because there was some instant gratification, right? Or maybe we're justifying the fact that we let someone emotionally push our buttons and we caused ourselves to feel frustrated or helpless or angry, right? And so we want to justify that because it's easier than blaming ourselves. So we'll give ourselves all kinds of rationalizations. But the key is to understand that we're not saying you should lose your emotions or forego your emotions or deny your emotions. Emotions are part of us, and to deny our emotions actually would not be logical. And it's also not necessary, because emotions are a very important part of life. Emotions are a wonderful part of life. They bring us joy. They make life worthwhile. So it's not that we need to in any way deny our emotions. We just need to master our emotions. In other words, having our emotions work for us as opposed to we working for our emotions, or would it be us working for our emotions? I think I love what my great friend, the leadership authority, and one of my treasured mentors, Dondi Scumaci, says about this. Dondi says, by all means, take your emotions along for the ride, but make sure you are driving the car, right? By all means, take your emotions along with you, but they need to be in the passenger side, seatbelt fastened securely, while you're on the driver's side. Another way we can look at this is, and in John David Mann's, my newest book, The Go-Giver Influencer, one of the characters, there were two mentors in this story and two proteges. And one of them, she is a judge, and she has a mentor a protege rather, by the name of Jackson. The judge is the mentor. And she says, Jackson, think of yourself as a company. You are a company, okay? You don't have a company, you are a company. And you have a board of directors. That board of directors is your emotions. Now, you also have a CEO. That CEO is your logic. That's the logical part of you. Now, by all means, the CEO should counsel their board. They should take advice. They should listen to their board of directors. Absolutely. But the decision needs to be made by the CEO. And in that same way, we should certainly take counsel of our emotions. We should listen to our emotions. We should pay attention to our emotions. Our emotions give us good clues, good signals, but the final decision needs to be our logic. And the more we act out of logic, the more we speak out of logic, the better our decisions are going to be.